Well, we're going to just take a few moments to look at those verses a little bit more. And over the past couple of weeks, as we move into this upper room, that used to be a ballroom, it'd be a bit hot to dance in here this morning, wouldn't it? We've been in a vision series looking at how we encounter God, encounter the love of God, learn to live more like Jesus, and go into our communities to see Jesus transform lives. And especially, we've been thinking all about waiting and dancing. So if you're here for the first time this morning and think, why on earth do they keep talking about dancing? We've been thinking about waiting and dancing. In the first week, Jim spoke to us about how we're not finished, but we're ready, and encouraging us to join together in that waiting before we launch into the next phase of action. And then last week, Juliet spoke to us about how steps transform into dancing and how David stopped every 6 steps to wait on God. So we'll be continuing that theory of waiting today, about looking about a dance that points to Jesus using Psalm 30. Well, like most small children, small girls probably, back in the 1980s, I attended dance classes. And I don't remember much from that time, and I wasn't a brilliant dancer, to say the least, but I did do different types of dancing. And as far as I know, different types of dancers show different things. Our game showed us that. Different types of dancers show different parts of a story. Within just ballet, as in the game, we can see that different dancers show us different things. And then different styles of dancing can show us different stories. Now, I didn't get too far in the dancing world, so my only experience really is ballet and tap. So we've got some ballet and some tap shoes this morning to help us focus on these verses and unpack them a little bit more, to highlight how we need to live a dance that points to Jesus. Now, like many of my friends and my own 2 girls, my first dip into dancing was ballet. Maybe raise a hand if you've tried ballet at some point in your life. Lots of the room, that's brilliant. Well, you'll be able to tell me lots more than I can say. But I wasn't fab at ballet. And as far as I know, to be good at ballet, you have to be really disciplined and really strong. One of the things I always wanted to do was to be able to go up on my toes on blocks. Can anyone in this room do that? No. Yes. Amazing. At the 1015, Maddie was here. She's one of our youth, and she's been working hard for years and years, and these are her ballet shoes. They've got blocks in the end, and she can stand up on her toes. But something that I read suggested it takes about 3 years at least of hard training, of pain, of practice, of squashing your toes, of building up your strength, and of discipline and consistent dancing to be able to do that. Otherwise, damage to your bones can occur. But we're not here to be better ballet dancers. We're here to think about a life that points to Jesus. And it struck me, whilst reading the verses from Psalm 30, some might come up on the screen, verses 1 to 3, that living a life that points to Jesus requires discipline, hard work, and the persistence of ballet. It requires waiting and strengthening. Being mature and strong in our faith doesn't just happen. It's the digging into our Bibles week after week. It's the crying out to God in tough times. I'm sure that many of you have done that. It's the waiting for his answers and to watch for the signs of his healing. That's where the discipline and the hard work builds up. And none of this is easy. It requires persistence. It requires waiting. It requires discipline. And I can think of countless examples in my life when I've needed to wait on God, where I've needed to cling to him and wait for him, like that psalm says, to bring me out of the depths below. I've had times with illness, times with loneliness, times with parenting, lots of times with parenting, times with struggling with my emotions and with relationships. Are we building ourselves up in strength and discipline when we hit those times? Are we spending time in prayer, waiting on God? Are we exploring our questions? A couple of years ago, I did Alpha again because I just had real questions about whether God really was good and how I could see that in my life. And it was just such a great chance to dig in and to explore and to wrestle and to become more mature in my faith. Are we reading our Bibles every day? No matter what our age is, whether you're here and you're small or whether you're here and you've been a Christian for years, we need to be waiting on God, to be using that discipline that we find in ballet, to be building ourselves up and strengthening ourselves. Some weeks ago at the 1015, we spent some time listening to God as a church, as a congregation, and I loved what one child wrote to Jesus. I wonder if we'd be able to write this. This girl's just turned 7, and she put, "I love you. What can I do better for you?" And I loved that. I thought, that's what a life of waiting and discipline is. I love you. What can I do better for you? So that's the first thing, the ballet shoes, helping us wait and strengthen ourselves as we live a life that points to Jesus. Well, if you're part of a dance group, who, I know many of you have tried ballet, but who's a part of a dance group now? Anybody? Mia? Excellent. Well done, Grace. Brilliant. If you're part of a dance group, you probably have a uniform, or at least for shows, you dress the same as everyone else. So that when you do a routine together, you look like a team. You look like you're part of the same dance. Now, I loved my ballet uniform. It was like a blue leotard with a little skirt on the bottom, and it was a knitted blue crossover cardigan. Anyone have one of those crossover You've still got one. It's amazing. It identifies you as part of a team. And if we did a show together, we all had our hair scraped into a tight bun. Have any parents had to do that tight ballet bun? It's agony, torture, isn't it? Getting all those hair bits into there. The costume shows that we're part of a team. The hair shows that we're part of a team, the togetherness. A few years ago, I went to see Billy Elliot in the West End. It's a ballet. It was really cool when all those people got together as part of a team in the same costume, doing the same dance. It was amazing. And verse 4 of this psalm, we're going to pop it on the screen now, shows us that we're part of a community that's called to point to Jesus together. It says, "Sing praise to the Lord, all his faithful people. Remember what the Lord has done and give him thanks." We're not just in it on our own, we're in it as part of a team. At our APCM a couple of weeks ago, Jim spoke about togetherness, and he said we need to, as an intergenerational, as a community of church of lots of different ages, we need to take the me out of it, and we need to put the you into it, to be thinking of others and to be church together. And when we come together to point to Jesus as a team, as a congregation, we can be so much more powerful than on our own. So again, for you, whether you're small or whether you're big, how are you playing your part as part of that team? How are we waiting together in this season? Are you coming along to Kingdom Come to wait and pray as a whole church? We've changed our Kingdom Come prayer meeting to be on a Wednesday night so that when you drop off at youth, that you can stay for it. To be not another evening out that week if you're a parent that already comes out on a Wednesday night. We've changed it to the doors open at 6:30 so you can come together, maybe if you've got smaller children, just stay for that little bit. But are you being part of that waiting and praying together as a church community? Have you joined a midweek group? Because joining a midweek group gets you to know other people and gets to strengthen our faith together. We're part of a team. Coming back to those things we wrote in the 9:15 a couple of weeks ago, when we're together as a church and we wait and listen as a church, God can speak so powerfully because he speaks the same thing to many of us, and then we really notice. I've got some of them here. Somebody put, "I want to dance. I want to feel it like it's home, light, kind." The light shines down on us, showing how Jesus lightens the load if we come to him. Strength, hope, love, and community, and hope. You know, lots of different people hearing from God in different ways, but the same kind of thing coming through. And when we're together as a team listening to God, we find that he speaks similar things to each of us, and that's why we wait and pray together as a team. And then lastly, living a life that points to Jesus requires a dance that makes some noise. I've got some tap shoes here. They've got little metal bits on the bottom. And when you dance normally, maybe with your socks on or with normal trainers on, it doesn't make so much noise. But when you dance with these on, it makes a really loud noise. I would have got Victoria to come and demonstrate some actually, but I think she'd be horrified. So it requires a dance that makes some noise. Verse 11 to 12, let's pop them on the screen. It says, "You have changed my sadness into a joyful dance. You have taken away my sorrow and surrounded me with joy, so I will not be silent." I think that's really important. I will not be silent. Well, I loved tap dancing. I wasn't very good at it, but I loved making a noise. And I loved that when you put the shoes on, everyone could stop and notice. We made a huge amount of noise, like you might have gathered. I love making noise in general. It was the same steps, but putting on those shoes made it something different, something noticeable, something that people stood up and noticed. And Jesus calls us to live that kind of life as a community, a life that people notice, a life that really makes some noise, a life of action. Sometimes we might not feel like making a joyful noise, but we're called to put on those shoes and not stay silent. Last week at home, we were watching TV and we watched something just in a normal program that made us a bit sad about the way that people were treated. And our reaction could have been to go to bed overwhelmed and sad and feeling rubbish. But we spoke about how watching those things drives us into action, to write, to campaign, to speak about how Jesus makes a difference, to say that it's not okay that people are persecuted because of their faith. And we need to stand up and make some noise. We've experienced the freedom of Jesus as people. So his call to us is that we put on those tap shoes and we make some noise. So how do we as a congregation, how do you not stay silent but make some noise? Is it by you praying for things in the news? We can all hear things on the radio or watch things or read things and praying for them. Is it by joining a team? You know, we're really desperate for people to help with the Nightlight Cafe, which is on a Saturday night here in the Salt House, meeting with people who are desperate in their mental health struggles to bring hope and to bring the love of Jesus. Or if you can't make it out on a Saturday night, is it by being part of the Love Your Neighbour team? Is it by coming along on a Thursday morning to pray for people, to transform people? Is it by regular giving here? If you're not free during the week at all, you could maybe give something of your finances, of your prayer life. Next week, we're going to have a special focus on giving to our vision. So I'd really encourage you to be praying for that through the week as we think about making some noise. And kids and youth, you might remember that a few weeks ago, we gave you some Smarties tubes and see what you could do to multiply that giving. Next week is the chance to bring them back, just as a not staying silent, as a tapping your shoes on the floor, as a making some noise. We can make some noise by inviting someone else to a youth social. There's one on Wednesday, an inflatable social, a kids social, a family breakfast, or to Alpha. There are loads of ways which we can be called to make some noise and to not stay silent. I've just got some from that 9:15 service, again, that people felt. One said they want all their friends to know about Jesus. Someone said they want to pray for the children of Syria. And someone said that people would find parent figures, both in God and in other people here. That's ways that we cannot stay silent, that we can be serving each other and making a noise in our community. So as we finish, as we prepare for the next church that God has for us in our phase as a church, the next thing that God's got for us in our phase as a church, and in our own lives, how are we making some noise? How are we living a dance that points to Jesus? Because we want to seek to live more like him and to show others him. So I'm going to invite Ben up, and we're just going to pray together.